Ghost Train is a Korean horror film that tells the story of a struggling YouTuber who makes a series of videos about a haunted train station hoping to get more views on YouTube. But as she's getting more popularity and learning about the train station, the more she is put in danger. Now, this was not first released in 2026, but it was first released in 2026 in the United States where I am at. So I am counting this as a 2026 horror release, although it's not going to be a 2026 release for everybody out there. And this is a complete random pick. I literally went on Prime Video and looked up 2026 horror releases and scrolled until I found this one, and I clicked on it. And I didn't read the description or anything. It was just you know what? I'll watch this. And this is a very solid movie for what it is. You mainly follow one plot line, and then you get into 4 short stories. And that is basically the movie. Very solid for what it is, and quite liked it. So going into the pros for Ghost Train, the best thing about this movie, hands down, is going to be the atmosphere with the train station. Most of this movie is in the train station, so I really liked how I got the atmosphere of like people around you, being alone. There's like very few people around. They got the atmosphere so good in this movie. Really good atmosphere. That's like the best part of this entire movie. This movie is shot very well. This has really good transitions, especially when you go to the short stories. Great transitions. The gore and the effects also on screen are very solid. They look good when you see them on screen too. Very solid. And the performances of the lead, for what she's given, I think she does do a good job, so that part is also pretty solid. But going into the mix, now they do a plot twist that's very predictable, that once one line is said, I'm like, okay, they're probably gonna do this, and I am right. So if you've seen a couple horror movies or horror movies like this, you could probably predict this twist they are doing. Does it ruin the entirety of the movie? No. But is it very easily predictable? Yes. And I also have scares in here for mixed. Don't get me wrong, there's some very solid scares, but it kind of goes in between solid scares to generic scares you have seen before, and it just kind of like switches in between. But still, that's solid over there. And then the first half of this movie is good, but then it kind of drops in the last half of the movie just a little bit. It doesn't make complete sense, and it did lose me a little bit, but not entirely, because I do enjoy where we actually end up at the end involving one thing in the movie. I didn't know they were going to go that route, but I do. The last half isn't as good as the first half of the movie after you pass the hour mark. But going into the cons, there's only one con I have for this, and it's going to be, there is like a love triangle situation in this movie that is just not great. It feels very thrown in between everything. This can go a little bit in the YouTuber storyline, I guess, because a lot of it is like stereotypes on YouTube and stuff, but mostly it's just, I don't know. When you get into like the thing, it just wasn't completely thought of, especially at the end. It doesn't make complete sense of why that would happen. Not a big fan of the Crush storyline. It just did not entirely work. It wasn't like all thought out of like everything else was in the movie. Spoilers. Before we get into spoilers, you guys are getting a very weird angle of my sweater here, but I'm freezing, so I put on my sweater. It doesn't look just like this. It's actually like a mountain, so very comfortable. But yeah, it's not just this. It's bigger and it's comfy. But going into it just looks weird on camera. But going into the spoilers for this movie, I didn't know they did like a time loop thing with this movie, and I'm putting it in the spoiler section for a reason, because it's better experience kind of like, I guess, not knowing it's a time loop, so that's why I'm putting it quite here. The movie starts at the end, but you end at the beginning, if that kind of makes sense. And I quite like how they do that, and I like how you get like all the stories and everyone work together. I think they do a good job at tying it all together. Now, it does lose, the last half is not as good as the first hour, but I like the time loop. I like that part a lot. The situationship triangle, the Crush storyline, I just didn't necessarily like that at all. I just wish maybe she called him for help when he came and found her. Yeah, they could have cut that entirely it just wasn't completely like thought out of and just felt very thrown in there. So he seems like he's like dating, I'm sorry, I cannot pronounce those names, I'm not gonna butcher them online, but he seems like he's dating this girl, but she likes him and he seems to like her randomly towards the end. I don't know. There's drama I felt like we could have gone without or replaced it with something better. This also has like cult beginnings. I wish we learned a bit more about the cult. We do know that it was built on top of it, but we don't, and then you see her obviously like kind of go down to there, but I just wish we learned a little bit more about the cult in this movie. I mean, at the end you have all the banging, which I guess was like the soul's taken. And the social media discussion of it all is important. I mean, obviously, YouTube channel, but that part of the movie I liked. Okay, that was a bit fun to see. Even like the bit where she does like, I'm gonna butcher that too, but where she does like the hand stuff, even like the footage, I had fun with. I like that. I'm just seeing like creative. Now having the jealousy of between the girlfriend and her, that was a bit weird. That goes with the triangle. But the main thing about this movie is the atmosphere. This has really, 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 really good atmosphere from the train station. Even the short stories, because you have the vending machine, you have the ones with the flowers, it's been a few days, guys. The other two short stories are the headbanging passengers and the acid thrower. Now they do a plot twist, which is pretty obvious, that the guy she's been talking to and giving all of these stories is actually been missing for months and probably dead, which is very obvious when she asks him, how do you know all of this? The first two are very brutal. That I will say though, the first two are the brutalest two, not as, but they start very brutal. So overall, I will say this. Ghost Train is a very solid horror movie, and I quite enjoyed it for what it was, even though generally this is not one I would go for. I had a good time with this one. Comment down below if you saw Ghost Train or knew this was out. Comment down below and let's have a discussion, and let me know if you want me to tell you an interesting story.